the air was thick with fear. Imagine generals sworn to loyalty whispering of treason in the shadows. I am your guide from forgotten history tales, and tonight I take you inside their secret world, where betrayal burned hotter than war itself. I take you into the heart of Berlin, 1943. The city shudders beneath Allied bombs, the air thick with smoke and the sour tang of crumbling stone. Street lamps flicker dimly through curtains of ash. But I guide you deeper, not into the ruins above, but into the silence of a cellar, hidden beneath the sprawling headquarters of the German Army High Command. The walls are damp. A single bulb hums overhead. Around a table, shadows stretch long, and the faces of men, generals, staff officers, aristocrats in faded uniforms, glimmer pale against the darkness. Their voices are hushed, their words weighted with death. For here, beneath the Reich's iron fist, treason is not only whispered, it is plotted. I lean close and hear them speak the unspeakable, the removal of Adolf Hitler, not merely by resignation, not by exile, by bullet, by bomb, by betrayal. The war, once heralded as Germany's triumphant return to greatness, is souring. The Eastern Front has become a graveyard. Stalingrad has collapsed into disaster, swallowing hundreds of thousands of men. The Wehrmacht bleeds, and the myth of the Führer's invincibility has cracked. I feel the despair seeping through the walls of these clandestine meetings. Each man present has sworn loyalty, yet each feels the weight of betrayal pressing on his chest. These generals are not romantic heroes. They are pragmatic, battle-worn, some even complicit in the crimes of the regime. But I sense in them a change, part desperation, part duty, part pride. They see the writing on the wall. If Hitler is not stopped, Germany will be annihilated. And so begins the story of men who dared to conspire against the most feared dictator of the age. The atmosphere is suffocating. Every tick of the clock echoes like a hammer of fate. I see them glance at the door, half expecting the SS to burst in at any moment. Fear lives here, not just of death, but of dishonor. For if they fail, their names will be etched in history not as saviors, but as traitors. One figure leans forward, his eyes hollow yet burning with resolve. Colonel Henning von Tresckow. He has seen the carnage of the Eastern Front firsthand. Men freezing, starving, slaughtered in hopeless offensives dictated by Hitler's madness. His voice is low, yet sharp, as he argues that action is no longer optional. Hitler must be killed, soon. Another man, General Ludwig Beck, once chief of the General Staff, adds his gravitas. Once a loyal servant, now he is weary and disillusioned. He warns that delay is death, not only for them, but for Germany itself. His words hang in the air, like smoke too heavy to disperse. But treason is no simple matter. The conspirators face not only the SS and Gestapo, but their own consciences. Oaths of loyalty to Hitler bind their tongues. Centuries of military tradition bind their hands. To break such oaths is sacrilege. Yet, as I feel their tension, I know that desperation can twist even the most sacred vows into ash. I picture the map of Europe stretched before them, pins marking lost armies, red arrows carving into the fatherland. To these men, each arrow is not just strategy, it is personal. Their sons, their soldiers, their honor, all bleeding into the soil of Russia. Their patience shatters, their loyalty cracks. The cellar door creaks, a chill rushes in, and the room freezes. Every man straightens as if judgment itself has entered. But it is only another conspirator, late and wary, clutching his hat in trembling hands. The relief is silent, yet palpable. They know how close they live to discovery. The Gestapo's gaze is everywhere. Every conversation may be overheard. Every friend may be an informant. And so they speak in riddles, in careful metaphors, never naming their target aloud. The patient must be cured. The tumor must be removed. The oak must be felled. I listen as their language weaves between caution and urgency, but the meaning is unmistakable. Hitler must die. I close my eyes, and I am inside their thoughts. Each man wrestles with guilt. Not long ago, many had praised the Führer, raised their arms in salute, commanded armies in his name. But I hear the whisper of a question gnawing in their minds. Is it betrayal to kill a tyrant? Or is it the truest form of loyalty to the nation? The tension in the room builds. They discuss methods. A pistol hidden in a briefing, a bomb in a plane, poison in his tea. Each suggestion is weighed, dissected, discarded. Hitler's paranoia makes him untouchable. Layers of guards, constant changes in schedule, an aura of myth around his very survival. He has escaped assassination before, by chance, by fortune, by what his followers call destiny. To kill him is to kill not just a man, but a myth. The bulb flickers. The men fall into silence. A distant siren wails above, the sound of another Allied raid descending on Berlin. The walls tremble faintly with the thud of bombs. Dust trickles from the ceiling. And in that moment, I feel the paradox of their conspiracy. They conspire to end a reign of terror. Yet in doing so, they risk plunging their nation into chaos, perhaps even civil war. Still, their eyes meet in grim understanding. There can be no turning back. Each knows that from this night forward, their lives hang by a thread. To falter is to die. To succeed is to gamble with the fate of millions. And so, beneath the thunder of bombs and the weight of their oaths, these generals bind themselves to a single, perilous path. I leave them in the half-darkness, their faces etched with shadows of doubt and determination. Their plan still whispers in the smoke. For soon, the whispers will harden into action. Soon, bombs will be primed, briefcases prepared, conspirators thrust into the role of executioners. But in this first night of treason, the only certainty is fear. And fear is the one thing that even generals cannot escape. The table is cleared, the bulb dimmed, the door locked once more, yet the echoes remain, footsteps of men who dared to imagine a world without Hitler, even as the world above burned with his fury. The conspiracy has begun, and already I feel the shadow of doom tightening around them. The cellar fades into silence, yet the echoes of their whispers cling to me like smoke on my clothes. I emerge with them into the cold Berlin night, where the streets reek of ash and petrol, and the city wears its wounds like open sores. Searchlights pierce the dark sky, hunting for the bombers that prowl above, while the rumble of artillery rolls faintly from the east. Every sound is a reminder. Time is running out. Treschow returns to the front. I follow him in thought, across forests split by artillery fire, and villages reduced to blackened shells. Here on the Eastern Front, the war is no longer strategy on a map. It is a devouring beast. Soldiers shiver in frost-bitten trenches, their faces gaunt, their eyes hollow. The smell of decay lingers on the wind. Treschow breathes this air daily, and each breath hardens his resolve. Hitler's madness has driven these men to ruin. Every order from Berlin, every demand for no retreat, means another regiment ground into nothingness. I see Treschow's mind working, calculating not just as a soldier, but as a man who knows time is a weapon. He cannot wait for distant allies, nor for fate. He must act. And so, amid the ruins of Smolensk, He begins weaving threads of conspiracy more tightly than ever before. He surrounds himself with like-minded officers, men exhausted by the slaughter, disgusted by Hitler's arrogance. Together, they hatch their first attempt. It is bold. It is desperate. It is dangerous. Hitler will soon fly back to Berlin after visiting the front. Treschow arranges for a gift, 2 bottles of fine Cointreau, to be placed aboard the Führer's plane. But the bottles are not filled with sweet liqueur. They hide within them a bomb, wrapped carefully, disguised in glass. I can feel the tension in Treskow's hands as he presses the package into the adjutant's arms, his voice calm, though his pulse surely rages. He has calculated everything: the altitude, the pressure, the inevitability of death once the fuse is triggered in the sky. The plane takes off. I wait with them, my breath shallow, my skin prickling with dread. Every second that ticks is a chance for the world to change. If the device explodes, Hitler will be torn from the sky, scattered in flames and metal. The war might end in a heartbeat. The course of history itself hangs in the balance. But then, word returns. The plane lands safely in Berlin. No explosion, no fire, no death. I feel the crushing weight of failure fall upon Treschow like a collapsing roof. Later, the truth emerges. The freezing air at high altitude had disabled the detonator. Fate itself, it seems, had intervened. Hitler steps out of the plane alive, his aura of invincibility somehow magnified. His followers whisper of divine protection. To Treschow, it is a curse. Failure is a noose tightening. He knows the package must be recovered before suspicion falls upon him. With nerves of steel, he orchestrates a ruse. An officer fetches the supposed liquor, returns it unopened, and no one is the wiser. The conspiracy breathes again, but more fragile, more desperate. And yet, Treschow does not yield. The flame within him only grows hotter, brighter. I can feel it burning his soul. He knows one attempt means little in the face of destiny. There will be another. There must be another. As weeks grind on, the circle of conspirators expands. General Beck lends wisdom, Treschow lends daring, and new names whisper their way into the shadows. Klaus von Stauffenberg, an aristocrat scarred by war, his body broken by wounds but his will unbending. Already, I sense his presence looming on the horizon, though he has not yet stepped fully into the conspiracy's heart. These men are bound by threads of desperation, by the belief that history will condemn them if they do nothing. Still, the failures gnaw at their courage. Each plan is a gamble with their own lives, each failure another chance for betrayal. They meet in dimly lit rooms, voices hushed, maps spread before them, their fingers tracing the movements of armies and the outlines of opportunity. And above them all, the shadow of Hitler looms, paranoid, restless, yet untouchable. I hear the question echo again in their silence. Is destiny against them? Or is the Führer truly protected by something darker, something that will not let him die until he has dragged Germany into the abyss? The bombs of Berlin return to my ears, the ground trembling as if the city itself groans beneath its own sins. And in that trembling, I know what comes next. Another attempt, bolder, riskier, closer to the man they must destroy. The air grows colder. Suspicion sharpens. The Gestapo listens more keenly, and yet the conspirators prepare once again to strike. This time, they will bring the bomb directly to Hitler's side, and the reckoning will come face to face. The failure in the skies hangs over them like a ghost, yet the conspirators cannot rest. Every new order from Hitler deepens the madness. Attack where retreat is wisdom. Hold positions that are already graves. Entire divisions vanish into the snow. I feel the desperation pressing down on them, a weight too heavy to bear. They know waiting means death, not only for themselves, but for Germany itself. It is Tresckow once more who drives the momentum forward. His resolve, sharpened by failure, turns ruthless. He begins to think not as a soldier, but as an executioner. If the plane was denied them, then the Führer must be struck in person. The chance comes in March 1943, when Hitler announces he will visit Army Group Center at Smolensk. The stage is set. The Führer, surrounded by generals, unaware that death sits quietly among them. I step with Tresckow into that day. The cold air bites his face as he walks through the headquarters courtyard, his limp steady, his expression composed. Around him, aides scurry, guards stand stiff, and officers adjust their uniforms with nervous pride. For them, Hitler's visit is spectacle, ceremony. But for Tresckow, it is the narrowest crack in the armor of destiny. He carries not papers, not bottles this time, but a bomb disguised as a parcel, small enough to pass as mere luggage. Inside the briefing room, the atmosphere is taut as wire. Hitler enters, his presence filling the space with that strange mixture of fervor and dread he always carried. His uniform immaculate, his mustache sharp, his eyes glittering with the energy of obsession. Men snap to attention. The room stiffens as though every breath has been arrested. Tresckow watches him closely, memorizing the cadence of his words, the gestures of his hands, and beneath his calm exterior, his mind races with one thought. Now. It must be now. The plan is simple in its terror. After the briefing, Hitler is to fly back to his headquarters. A parcel containing the bomb will accompany him aboard his plane. At altitude, the mechanism should ignite, tearing the Führer from life in fire and steel. Again, history teeters on a knife's edge, but fate is cruel. The mechanism fails once more. The bomb, like the last, lies dormant, its silence mocking Tresckow's resolve. Hitler lands safely, alive and untouched. And once again, whispers spread of his invulnerability. His guards boast. His followers proclaim destiny. The conspirators feel only despair. I sense the despair as if it were my own. Thick, suffocating, clawing at their resolve. Each failure binds them tighter in danger. Each attempt risks exposure. And yet, each failure also sharpens their will. The more invincible Hitler appears, the more urgent it becomes to end him. Tresckow cannot afford to be discovered. With meticulous cunning, he retrieves the failed device before anyone suspects its true nature. I feel his exhaustion, his spirit frayed yet unbroken. He knows he cannot carry this burden alone. The conspiracy must widen, and so it does. In Berlin, new voices join the chorus of treason. Ludwig Beck, stern and steady, lends his authority. Karl Goerdeler, once mayor of Leipzig, adds political vision. And somewhere, far from the plotting rooms, Klaus von Stauffenberg rises into focus. A man carved by war, his right hand lost, 2 fingers gone from his left, 1 eye blind, his body shattered, but his spirit forged into steel. He has tasted Hitler's war with his own blood, and he, too, is ready. The circle is no longer a whisper. It is a pulse, a heartbeat, faint but growing stronger. Officers, aristocrats, politicians, all united by a single goal, the destruction of Hitler. They speak not of survival now, but of duty, of history, of Germany's soul itself. I feel their conviction swelling like a tide against the rocks of tyranny. But always, there is the specter of betrayal. The Gestapo's ears are everywhere. Friends might be spies. A misplaced word, a careless gesture, could mean the gallows. I see them at night, alone in their homes. their wives asleep, their hands trembling as they pour whiskey, wondering if tomorrow brings glory or execution. And through it all, Hitler continues, untouched, weaving destruction with every command. To his inner circle, he grows more paranoid, more erratic, yet his hold on power remains absolute. To strike at him is to strike at a fortress made not of stone, but of fear. The conspirators know they cannot afford another failure. One more chance, one more slip, and their entire network will unravel. They begin to dream of a single decisive blow, one that cannot fail, one that will rip Hitler from life before his myth can shield him again. The stage is shifting. I feel it in the rhythm of their meetings, in the urgency of their whispers. No longer is this a matter of opportunity. It is becoming a crusade, and every man involved knows it may cost his life. The question is no longer if they will strike. It is who will carry the burden. And soon, one man, wounded, scarred, and burning with resolve, will step forward to take it upon himself. The name is already rising among them, a name whispered like a promise, like a prayer. Stauffenberg. The name Stauffenberg grows in the shadows like a spark waiting for flame. I see him now, not as a myth, but as a man, Klaus von Stauffenberg, walking through corridors where marble echoes under his boots, his figure straight despite the ruin of his body. His right hand is gone, lost in North Africa. 2 fingers on his left have been torn away, one eye blinded, his face marked with scars. Yet when I look into him, I feel no weakness. Instead, I feel iron, burning hotter than before. He has been shaped by the war as few others have. At first he was loyal, devoted to Hitler, convinced of Germany's rise. But the slaughter, the madness, the rivers of blood pouring across Europe, and the crimes committed in the name of the Reich, these have seared his conscience raw. In the hospitals where he lay recovering from his wounds, he began to see clearly. Hitler is not Germany's savior, he is its executioner, and so Stauffenberg returns to duty not merely as a soldier, but as a man carrying destiny on his back. When Tresckow meets him, the connection is immediate. I feel the current between them. One man scarred in body, the other in spirit, both consumed by the same resolve. Tresckow whispers of the failed plots, the bombs that would not detonate, the chances wasted. Stauffenberg listens, his jaw set, his single eye gleaming with a light that borders on fury. He does not shrink from the failures, he absorbs them. He does not see curses, only lessons. More than any other, Stauffenberg possesses what the conspiracy needs: access, courage, and an unshakable belief that action must be taken now. While many plotters hesitate, calculating risks, fearing disgrace, Stauffenberg embraces the truth with ruthless clarity. Hitler must die, no matter the cost. I hear him say it as if the words were branded into my ears. It must be done, even if it costs us our lives. But assassination is only half the battle. The generals know that killing Hitler without a plan will unleash chaos. Himmler, Goebbels, Göring, the regime's hydra, will sprout new heads unless they are cut down in one coordinated strike. And so, the conspirators breathe life into an old emergency plan, Operation Valkyrie. Originally designed to maintain order in the event of civil unrest, it will now be twisted into a weapon. Once Hitler is dead, Valkyrie will allow them to seize control of the army, the ministries, and the heart of Germany itself. I picture them hunched over maps in secret apartments, the air thick with tobacco smoke, voices low and tense. They draft orders, falsify signatures, build a paper fortress of deception. With Hitler gone, his machine will be turned against itself. The Wehrmacht will move not to protect him, but to destroy what remains of his Reich. If it succeeds, Germany may yet be saved. Stauffenberg throws himself into this work with relentless energy. Despite his injuries, he learns to handle pistols, to arm explosives, to manipulate fuses with the precision of a craftsman. I watch his damaged hands fumble, then master the motions required to prepare a bomb. Pain becomes part of his resolve. His body, though broken, becomes an instrument of fate. Yet around them, the air grows more dangerous. Hitler survives air raids, escapes ambushes, emerges unscathed from near misses. Each survival strengthens the myth of his invulnerability. To his followers, he is chosen by Providence. To the conspirators, each day he lives is another step toward Germany's destruction. Their window narrows. They know that one more defeat, one more Stalingrad, and Germany will collapse beyond repair. Suspicion creeps into their meetings like a draft through a locked door. Gestapo informants are everywhere. Friends cannot be trusted. Each conspirator lives in two worlds: the outward show of loyalty, the inner fire of betrayal. I see them glance over their shoulders, speak in riddles, burn papers after reading. The fear is constant, but so is the conviction. Stauffenberg rises above them, not just by courage, but by necessity. He alone has both access to Hitler and the will to strike. His position in the general staff grants him entry into briefings, councils, and conferences where the Führer appears. He alone can carry a bomb directly to the tyrant's feet. Treschow, Beck, Goerdeler. They look to him as the sword they cannot wield themselves, and Stauffenberg accepts this mantle with a grim calmness. I follow him into the rehearsals of his mind. He imagines the moment, the conference room, the long table, the maps spread before Hitler, the bomb hidden in a briefcase at his feet. He pictures the explosion tearing through the bunker, the smoke, the screams, the end. He rehearses not just the action, but the aftermath, issuing orders, invoking Valkyrie, seizing Berlin before the regime can rally. But as his conviction grows, so too does the danger. Hitler becomes more erratic, more guarded, shifting locations constantly, surrounded by SS men who would die for him. Stauffenberg must strike not only with precision, but with perfect timing. There will be no second chance. And as July of 1944 approaches, I feel the rhythm of destiny quicken. Meetings are scheduled, fuses are tested. The briefcase waits. Every step of history seems to funnel toward one room, one man, one explosion. But fate is never so simple. The closer they draw to the moment of truth, the more fragile the plan becomes. Every detail could unravel them. Every second could betray them. And I can already feel the shadow of failure stalking them like a silent executioner. Still, Stauffenberg prepares. With his shattered body, with his iron will, with his briefcase of death, he steps forward into the role of history's executioner. And soon, the bunker at Rastenburg will tremble. The days march toward July with a relentless beat, and I feel the weight of inevitability pressing on every breath the conspirators take. Stauffenberg is no longer a name whispered in shadow. He is the chosen blade, sharpened and set. The others orbit around him. Beck, solemn and gray. Goerdeler, restless with political visions. Treschow, burning with quiet desperation. But it is Stauffenberg who will walk into the heart of the beast. The headquarters of the Führer, Wolfschanze, the Wolf's Lair, looms in the forests of East Prussia, a labyrinth of bunkers, concrete walls, and coiled barbed wire. I imagine it as a fortress of paranoia, its air heavy with damp earth and the ever-present smell of oil and gunpowder. Guards stand rigid at every gate, dogs straining against their leashes, SS officers watching with cold, suspicious eyes. Even the trees seem tense, their shadows cutting sharp lines across the sand paths that wind between the bunkers. This is where Stauffenberg must strike. He knows it, and so do the others. But getting close enough to Hitler, close enough to place a bomb within reach of his mortal body, is a task that borders on the impossible. Still, impossibility is the soil in which this conspiracy has grown. Stauffenberg's briefcase becomes the vessel of fate. I see him in a quiet room, his one good hand working with meticulous care, his damaged left pressing awkwardly, clumsily, yet determinedly on the detonators. Sweat beads his brow, not just from the effort, but from the knowledge that a single slip, a single sound out of place, could expose everything. Inside the case lies a charge of British plastic explosive, wrapped around a pencil detonator. The mechanism is simple. Bend the copper, snap the vial of acid inside, let it eat through a wire, and within 10 minutes, death. The plan is set with grim precision. Stauffenberg will attend a military conference with Hitler, place the briefcase beneath the table where the Führer stands, and slip away under the guise of a telephone call. At the appointed minute, the room will erupt in fire and shrapnel, ending the dictatorship in a thunderclap. But success depends on more than a bomb. Operation Valkyrie must follow instantly. The conspirators in Berlin are poised, orders drafted and ready to unleash. The reserve army will seize communications, government offices, and SS headquarters. Goebbels, Himmler, Göring, all must be isolated, cut off before the Nazi machine can reassemble. Only speed and ruthlessness can ensure victory. I hear the conversations late at night, their voices low but edged with iron. Once Hitler is gone, Germany can be saved. We must seize Berlin before they know he is dead. We cannot hesitate. Yet beneath their resolve lies a gnawing fear. What if the bomb fails again? What if Hitler survives once more, protected by the strange, terrible aura that has already spared him? On July 15th, the first attempt is made. Stauffenberg carries the briefcase into the conference. But at the last moment, the meeting is cancelled. The conspirators seethe, trapped between relief and despair. They know every delay is dangerous. Too much hesitation, and the Gestapo's net will close around them. Then comes July 20th, 1944. The morning is heavy with heat. Flies buzz in the forest air. The wolf's lair is restless with soldiers and staff, all waiting for the daily conference. Stauffenberg arrives, his uniform crisp, his cap shading his single eye. He carries the briefcase in his good hand, and with it, the fate of millions. I follow him through the gates, past salutes and inspections, into the concrete corridors where echoes seem to stretch unnaturally long. His composure is perfect. No flicker of nerves betrays him, though I feel his heart pounding like a war drum beneath his chest. He enters the conference hut, where Hitler stands hunched over maps, his generals clustered close around. The room is stifling, the air thick with sweat and cigarette smoke. Stauffenberg's movements are deliberate, rehearsed, masked in routine. He sets the briefcase down, sliding it beneath the massive oak table, close to Hitler's legs. Then, with measured calm, he excuses himself. A call, urgent, to Berlin. No one questions him. No one sees the fire he has planted at their feet. Outside, I feel the minutes stretch like hours. Stauffenberg moves swiftly, climbing into a waiting car, his aide beside him. The briefcase ticks silently in the room behind. At any moment, history itself may detonate. Inside the hut, voices drone, pens scratch on paper. And then, the explosion. The earth shudders, a roar splits the air, shards of wood, Glass and metal burst outward, tearing through the forest. Flames and smoke billow skyward, and men scream as the hut collapses in chaos. Guards rush, shouting, their uniforms torn, their faces blackened with soot. In Berlin, the conspirators wait breathlessly for confirmation. Has it succeeded? Has the Führer finally been erased? For a moment, hope surges like lightning in their veins. Orders begin to move. Telephones ring. Operation Valkyrie stirs from its slumber. But inside the smoke and ruin of the wolf's lair, a figure emerges, staggering, soot-stained, his uniform shredded but his body alive, his eardrums ruptured, his arm burned but alive. Adolf Hitler. The impossible has happened again. The table, thick and heavy, had shielded him from the worst of the blast. 4 men lie dead, many others injured. But the Führer lives, and with every breath he draws, doom sharpens its claws for the conspirators. The explosion still reverberates in my chest, echoing like a drumbeat of destiny. For a fleeting moment, the conspirators believe they have changed the course of history. Stauffenberg, already racing away from the wolf's lair, is convinced Hitler lies in pieces beneath the wreckage. His aide beside him is pale but exultant. They hurry toward the airfield, every step carrying them closer to Berlin, closer to the heart of their coup. In Berlin itself, the air crackles with tension. Telephones buzz, typewriters clatter, aides rush in and out of offices clutching sealed orders. The conspirators seize their moment, invoking Operation Valkyrie. The reserve army is alerted. Units are told that SS officers have attempted a coup of their own, that the Führer has been assassinated by his black uniformed guardians. It is a lie, but a necessary one, a deception to mask the truth until power is firmly in their grasp. For a time, it works. Columns of troops march into the streets, occupying government buildings. Goebbels' Ministry of Propaganda falls under guard. SS officers are arrested, their weapons confiscated, their radios silenced. In those first breathless hours, the Reich itself trembles on the brink. I feel it like a tremor in the bones of history, the chance that everything might turn, that Germany might awaken from its nightmare. But at the wolf's lair, the nightmare refuses to die. Hitler, battered and bloodied, rises from the smoke like a phantom. His uniform is torn, his hair singed, but his voice still rings with iron. Photographs are taken, his injuries displayed as proof of his survival. "Providence has spared me," he declares. "I am unshaken." His staff rally, the SS renew their oaths, and within hours the truth spreads. The Führer lives. That truth travels faster than the conspirators' lies. Telephone lines carry it like wildfire into Berlin, into every barracks, every command post. Officers who had hesitated now turn back. Soldiers who had followed orders now doubt. The reserve army, meant to be the sword of the coup, becomes instead a weapon of confusion. I see Stauffenberg arrive in Berlin, confident still, his face alight with certainty. "Hitler is dead," he insists. "I saw the blast. He cannot have survived." But his words clash with the voices arriving by telephone, the whispers racing through the corridors. Hitler is alive. Hitler has spoken. Hitler commands. The coup begins to fracture. Some commanders refuse to move further until the truth is clear. Others release SS officers already arrested. In the Ministry of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels himself sits calm and composed, refusing to yield. It is he who connects directly with Hitler by telephone, allowing the Führer's voice to carry into Berlin like a dagger through the conspirators' plans. In that instant, the illusion shatters. Panic ripples through the plotters' circle. Papers are torn, orders rescinded, voices raised in desperate argument. The walls of their conspiracy, built over months of secrecy and sacrifice, begin to collapse in a single night. Soldiers once loyal to the conspirators now seize them instead. The net tightens swiftly, mercilessly. Stauffenberg remains unbending. Even as the coup disintegrates, even as news of Hitler's survival spreads beyond doubt, he does not flinch. His one good hand clenches into a fist. He insists they must fight to the end, that surrender means only death. And he is right. For already, the SS are closing in, their guns ready, their vengeance sharpened. In the Bendler block, the army headquarters in Berlin where the conspirators gather, the night grows heavy with dread. The corridors are crowded with soldiers uncertain whom to obey. Outside, trucks rumble in, headlights glaring against the windows. Inside, Beck prepares for death with quiet dignity, penning his final notes. Others pray, or drink, or stand in silence, waiting for the inevitable knock at the door. And then, the knock comes. The building is surrounded. The loyalists have prevailed. Hitler's fury has unleashed a storm, and it crashes down upon the conspirators without mercy. Stauffenberg is seized, beaten, dragged into the courtyard under the glare of searchlights. The night air is sharp, the cobblestones cold. He knows what awaits him. His comrades, Heiften, Ulbricht, Beck, are beside him, bound together in failure and fate. Soldiers form a firing squad, their rifles gleaming. Orders are barked, boots stamp in the darkness. Yet in this final hour, Stauffenberg stands tall. His one eye blazes with defiance, his voice cutting through the night like a sword. "Long live holy Germany," he cries. And then the rifles crack, thunder splitting the silence, and he falls. The courtyard smells of smoke and gunpowder, and the night swallows their bodies. But the echo of his words lingers, carried on the wind, refusing to die. Still, Hitler lives. The Reich stands, for now, and vengeance has only begun. For the dawn will bring not silence, but purges, and the Gestapo's hunt will stretch like fire through the veins of Germany, consuming all who dared to whisper treason. The night of July 20th bleeds into morning, and with it comes the fury of a regime wounded yet unbroken. Hitler has survived, and survival is a weapon sharper than any blade. By dawn, his survival is no longer just a fact. It is a legend. The propaganda ministry, steered by Goebbels' unyielding hand, spreads the story across Germany. The Führer has been saved by providence, protected by fate itself. Posters, radio broadcasts, and whispers all carry the same message. The man chosen by destiny cannot be killed. I feel the suffocating effect of this myth taking hold. For the common people, battered by war, it seems almost believable. How else could one man walk unharmed from explosions, ambushes, disasters? For the conspirators, the myth is death itself. Their failure is not merely military, it is spiritual, psychological. They have given Hitler not just survival, but a new cloak of invincibility. The response is immediate and merciless. The Gestapo descends like wolves. Files are seized, doors smashed open in the dead of night. Men are dragged from their homes, their families screaming, their children clutching at empty air. Suspects are thrown into cells where the air reeks of sweat, blood, and fear. Torture follows, the cracking of bones, the tearing of voices. Secrets pour out under agony, names whispered into the ears of executioners. The conspiracy that once breathed in whispers now dies in screams. General Ludwig Beck, dignified even in ruin, is offered a pistol in the Bendler block. He raises it with shaking hands, but the shot fails to take him. Soldiers finish the task. His life ended in the very building where his treason was born. Others are not granted such swift ends. They are dragged before the People's Court, where Judge Roland Freisler presides like a demonic conductor, his shrill voice echoing in the vaulted chamber. I see him pacing, pointing, spitting venom, mocking the accused with theatrical cruelty. The trials are not trials. They are theater, staged for Hitler's vengeance. Men once honored as patriots are now humiliated, stripped of dignity before the cameras. Generals are screamed at like schoolboys, their words drowned out by Freisler's tirades. Sentences are foregone conclusions, death by hanging. And what hangings they are. Not the swift mercy of the gallows, but slow strangulation on thin piano wire, the victims left to writhe in agony. Hitler demands it filmed, the executions captured as spectacle. I cannot help but feel the grotesque obsession, the dictator not satisfied with their deaths, but needing their humiliation immortalized. One by one, the circle collapses, Gordeler executed. Treskov, choosing to end his life on the Eastern Front before the Gestapo can take him, whispering with his last breath that the world will understand Germany was not silent. Others fall like dominoes, officers, aristocrats, clerks, even wives who knew too much. Nearly 5,000 are swept into the tide of revenge, hundreds executed. The conspiracy that began in whispers ends in a flood of blood. And yet, even as the ropes tighten, I feel something unbroken. In the words shouted by Stauffenberg before the rifles, in the calm of Beck, in Treskov's dying note, there is defiance. They failed, yes, but they showed that not all of Germany followed Hitler blindly, that within the heart of the Reich, courage still flickered against the darkness. Still, the cost is unbearable. Hitler emerges from the ashes stronger in appearance, if not in reality. His grip on power tightens. The Wehrmacht, once proud and divided, is now firmly shackled to him. The SS stand taller, their loyalty rewarded. The Gestapo, emboldened by blood, watch more closely than ever. The chance to break the Reich from within has passed. The conspirators are dead, and their vision of Germany buried with them. I linger in the silence after the executions. The prison courtyards are still, the ropes swaying in the wind. Families mourn in secrecy, forbidden to speak the names of their dead with honor. Fear spreads deeper than ever, choking any spark of rebellion. And yet, I cannot shake the sense that their sacrifice has planted a seed. They failed to kill Hitler, but they shattered the illusion that he was untouchable from within. They proved that resistance existed, even if crushed. Still, as 1944 fades toward its bitter winter, the war grinds on, relentless, devouring millions more. Hitler grows more paranoid, more detached from reality. And though his end is written, though the Reich itself trembles beneath the Allied advance, I cannot yet bring myself to look ahead. For now, I stand in the aftermath of Valkyrie, in the cold shadow of ropes and gallows, listening to the silence left by those who dared and lost. But beyond the silence, beyond the fear, another sound begins to grow, the distant thunder of Allied guns rolling ever closer to Berlin. And with it, the certainty that Hitler's end will not come from a conspirator's bomb, but from the flames of a collapsing empire. The gallows stand empty now, but the echoes of the executions still linger in the air, like smoke that refuses to clear. I walk through the corridors of Berlin in the final months of the war, and I feel the weight of silence pressing down on everything. The conspirators are gone. Beck, Gordeler, Treschow, Stauffenberg, all reduced to names whispered in fear, their families punished, their legacies smeared by the regime they sought to destroy. And yet, in that silence, I also feel their absence as a presence, like shadows that stretch across the crumbling Reich. For Hitler, lives, but he is no longer untouchable. His body may have survived the briefcase bomb, but his aura is cracked. The generals no longer believe in his genius, though they still obey his every order under threat of death. His paranoia deepens, festering. He trusts no one, not even those closest to him. The failure of July 20th has made him more dangerous, more ruthless, more desperate. The wolf's lair becomes a tomb of fear. Hitler rants for hours, pounding the table with fists, berating generals who dare to speak sense. He issues impossible orders, counterattacks with divisions that no longer exist, fortresses to be held long after they have fallen. His staff scribble notes, their pens scratching furiously, though they know these commands will lead only to more death. They dare not contradict him. The failed assassination has silenced even their timid resistance. But outside the bunkers, the world is closing in. The Red Army sweeps across the east like a tidal wave, relentless and merciless. The Americans, British, and their allies hammer from the west, skies thick with bombers, cities reduced to rubble. The Reich is collapsing, squeezed from every side. I hear the rumble of artillery in the distance, the crash of bombs, the cries of refugees clogging the roads. Hitler's empire shrinks day by day, his promises of final victory sounding hollower with every breath. In Berlin, the people sense the end. Once, they whispered of Hitler as destiny's chosen man. Now they curse him under their breath, their faith shattered by hunger, by fire, by grief. The failed coup of July has not saved them, but it has revealed the truth, that even within the Wehrmacht, even among the elite, there were men who saw Hitler not as savior, but as destroyer. For the first time, many Germans dare to wonder if loyalty was a lie, and still, Hitler clings to power. The attempt on his life has left him more determined to drag Germany down with him. He speaks of twilight, of Wagnerian endings, of fire and ruin. If he must fall, the world must fall with him. The conspirators dreamed of saving Germany. Hitler dreams only of burying it. I walk now through the ruins of April 1945. Berlin lies in smoldering ruin, the air filled with ash and the stench of death. Soviet shells crash into the city, shaking the very earth. Hitler hides deep in his bunker, pale, trembling, his body broken by disease and paranoia. Around him, the last loyalists cling to fading hope, their whispers drowned by the roar of guns. He knows the end has come, and with it, the myth of invincibility is finally destroyed, not by treason, not by conspiracy, but by war itself. In those final days, the ghosts of July 20th seem to gather. I imagine Stauffenberg's eye watching from the shadows, Trescow's weary voice whispering in the concrete halls, Beck's dignified silence haunting the Führer bunker. They did not succeed, but the end they sought still arrives. Hitler does not die by their bomb, but by his own hand, in a bunker reeking of gasoline and despair. The Reich crumbles, and with it, the dream of the 1,000-year empire vanishes into dust. And yet, when the guns fall silent, when the rubble cools, the question remains, what of those who tried and failed? History has often been unkind to them, branding them traitors in their own time, martyrs only later. But as I stand here, looking back through the smoke of the past, I see something greater. I see men who dared to defy tyranny at its height, who risked everything to strike against a monster cloaked in fear. Their bomb did not kill Hitler. Their coup did not succeed. But their defiance carved a scar into the myth of obedience, a scar history could not erase. They proved that even in the darkest heart of the Reich, conscience still breathed, courage still burned. And so the story of July 20th lives on, not as a tale of failure, but as a reminder that even when defeat is certain, there is honor in resistance. That even when the tyrant survives, history remembers those who dared to strike at him. I leave the ruins now, the echoes fading, but one line remains, whispering like a vow carried across time. Stauffenberg's cry, "Long live Holy Germany." A cry not silenced by gunfire, not buried in rubble, but carried forward as a warning, as a hope, as a testament to those who dared. And in that cry, the shadow of resistance lives forever.